got the best coaches in the game. We really ain't playing. We regroup up in the Slack chat where the coaches debrief. We be piecing these puzzles, occupy the chunk of the pie. Ain't no lie when we hit the block, helmets cast at the top.
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Bold Call Fantasy Football Podcast. Today is Wednesday, January 27th, 2021. My name is Kevin Allen, a.k.a. The Geek, and I've got the Encyclopedia Footballica himself, Season Long Says, here with me, and we're going to take a look at basically the free agency marketplace for NFL, fantasy implications of some of these changes, and try to get a little jump on the predicting game, where some of these guys will go. What's up, Season Long Says? How you been, my man?
All right. Yeah, as you know, football never stops around here. It's amazing. And everyone I talk to, we do these fantasy football podcasts. We used to kind of just do them sporadically in the offseason. Now, there's actually a demand for offseason fantasy football content. It's amazing to me how early best ball is starting, how many players are flocking to Dynasty. And those are those who just couldn't get rid of the itch from the 2020 season. And you go ahead.
I'm telling you, I want to draft. Like, I'm ready for best ball leagues. Season hasn't even ended yet.
Yeah, and there's definitely a few companies out there that have already started putting the best ball out there. And you mentioned something interesting. When you talk about the upcoming free agents, it's not just about how that player gets affected. That's what's so interesting about this conversation. It's that there's going to be players that affect other players. Obviously, quarterbacks affect the whole team. Wide receivers that help the quarterbacks. Running backs moving to situations with better offensive lines. Every player is very dependent on other. There's no players that are just have independent value. Maybe the running backs a little bit in fantasy football. That's what's so great about it. There's a whole domino effect.
Absolutely. And by the way, getting the edge, especially in the early best ball leagues and those type of things, it's critical not just to understand, hey, and I'll give you an example. It's not just, hey, Aaron Jones might leave the Packers this year. All right, well, great. He might end up in a situation, better or worse, whatever. But wait, somebody else is going to be the Packers running back this year that's going to get all the goodness. So you have to understand multiple levels to some of these free agency situations. Now, before we get into this, I want to talk about No House Advantage, our sponsor for this podcast. Now, No House Advantage is a DFS prop site where you play against other players, not against the house. And they're running a massive contest tonight. Today is Wednesday, January 27th. They're running one of their biggest contests ever. So,
well, it's a huge NBA night. Almost every team is on the slate. And look, I'm even wearing my Kobe Bryant 24
there we go
to celebrate the NBA slate tonight.
I mean, Rip Kobe, and the anniversary was yesterday. And so let me talk about this contest. So here's the deal. We've got an awesome deal with these guys where you could play free in this contest with $20 entry. You could play free tonight for over $25,000 in cash on No House Advantage. You go to nohouseadvantage.com, sign up with promo code ARMY, and you get a $20 free play and up to a $200 deposit match. Let me tell you how good this is. So basically, you put in $200 into your account there. They give you $400 plus a $20. That's $420 to play on this game. It's a no-brainer. Guys, this is like free money. None of the sites do this anymore. Now, what's No House Advantage?
I've been playing on their app. Their app is second to none. You're talking about some of the biggest companies out there that have these really nice looking apps. No House Advantage put a lot of resources. Their app is smooth.
Really good stuff. So No House Advantage is a daily fantasy sports platform that offers player prop contests for cash prizes across the NFL, NBA, MLB, and PGA. Bet on your favorite player props versus other teams, not against the house. Simply choose a contest, select your player props, earn points for correct picks, and win big. Enjoy more betting autonomy with no salary cap restrictions or predetermined point values. Make sure to lock in your picks on No House Advantage before the contest locks tonight at 7:30. So there we go. Awesome contest tonight. But the best part, I love the free money. Put in $200, you get $400, you get a $20 free play. It's ridiculous. Go on there. It's an awesome site. And, player prop games is the new thing. There's a lot of sites doing it. But No House Advantage, I love that you're not playing against the house. The other sites are putting massive juice on these props. They're not doing that here, so it's really cool. And you also can weight your selections and use our projections to pretty much smash these games. It's free money. Get in there. All right, let's get into it. But Let's jump into free agents. I was going to do a little Super Bowl talk, but you know what? We'll hold off on that. There's a lot of free agency stuff, and we can do a whole thing about the Super Bowl, and we will. So I want to jump right into this free agency talk, and the first big name that's already dropped is Matt Stafford. Now, he's not a free agent, but him and the team have agreed to part ways. So the Matt Stafford era in Detroit is coming to an end, says.
Mercifully.
I guess. I mean, Detroit just hasn't been a good team, but Stafford's been a pretty good quarterback.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. It's like you're going to have a quarterback maybe a little past his peak, but still probably a top 15 real-life NFL QB who's presumably going to be in an upgraded situation.
You would think so. The other big thing with Detroit is, Kenny Golladay, free agent, but let's stick with Matt Stafford. So if he's going to be moved, I think there's a couple of veteran teams, and these teams will come up a lot in discussions. There's probably 3 veteran teams that are win now that need a quarterback. The 3 teams to me, the primary is the Colts. The Colts are the absolute top of the list. The Patriots need a quarterback. They don't have anybody. The Bears need a quarterback, and they're in that division. They know Matt Stafford really well. Could he go to the Bears season long, says?
You know, it's funny. It's like I always see online people, and this has been a thing since we were kids. You can't trade him within the division. You can't trade him within the conference.
Not this guy. This guy you can trade within the division.
I think almost any guy. What you're telling me, okay, even if we were talking about Desean Watson, for example.
They are talking about not trading him, because it's...
and the reason is, what if someone in division is giving you the best deal? Like, if the fact that you're wanting to trade him anyway means that you don't need him for your team anymore, want him for your team, whether it's fit or talent or whatever, that I despise, I reject, don't trade him within the conference. Now, obviously, if all things are even, you want to push him away if it's someone that you fear that could play against you. But if someone's offering you 3 first-round picks and everyone else is offering you 2, you take the 3 first-round picks in the division. You agree?
I think this don't trade within division is silly.
Silly.
Yeah. So with that being said, the Bears would be an interesting destination. Have the Bears given up on Mitch Trubisky? Do we know? They brought that horrible GM back, Ryan Pace. It's crazy. Bobby Wow, I'm sorry, bro. I'm sorry that you have a terrible franchise that you're a fan of. That's my boy, Bobby Wow. Loves the Bears, and they punish him. It's like if the Jets brought Adam Gase back. What the fuck are you guys doing over there? Are they crazy? Anyway.
Yeah, well, Mitch Trubisky, they did not pick up his 5th-year option. So he is a free agent. He's free to go. They could franchise tag him if they wanted to keep him around for another year. It wouldn't be too bad. It's only a 1-year commitment. I do not anticipate
to pay. Wait. Hold up. You already paid this man.
They haven't paid him. They had him on a rookie
first-round draft capital, first pick. You traded up. You did everything terrible. Now you want to fucking pay him $21 million to destroy your team as a franchise quarterback? Hell no.
Well, hear me. What else they're going to certainly look to upgrade the position, whether it's in the draft,
we'll have a million options for the Bears, including the best possible option coming up soon called Fitzmagic, but we're not there yet.
Okay. So you asked about Matt Stafford.
Stafford. Where can he land?
Okay, so he is there. He's under contract for, I believe, another 2 years, could be 3. So he's a secure asset. First, let's take a step back here. What could they expect in compensation to a team they trade Matt Stafford for? So I think reasonably, a 2nd-round pick is the maximum you're going to get. It could be a 2nd and a player. Absolutely no one's going to give a 1st-round pick for an aging quarterback unless you thought that was the key, which the Colts may actually think that, to a Super Bowl run. I don't think they're going to do that because it's going to be other free agents. So I think Washington is the most likely destination. You mentioned the Patriots as well, but I think Washington fits perfectly. You have the young weapons in Catch TMC, Terry McLaurin. You have Logan Thomas, who surprised many, even at age 29, becoming an elite tight end, or a top 7 or 8 tight end. I wouldn't call them elite. We know who the elites are. And then Antonio Gibson. So it's very rare. You have top 10 fantasy options at 3 different positions: Terry McLaurin, Antonio Gibson, and Logan Thomas. But you need a quarterback. I mean, Tyler Heineke is maybe he'll be on the roster, but we can't bank on him to be a starter over a long period of time. I think that Matt Stafford on the Washington soon-to-be named football team makes a whole lot of sense. They're going to have a high second-round pick, which should be very appealing.
Yeah, you know what? What a great situation. Can you imagine Terry McLaurin catching passes for Matt Stafford? I mean, it's a really, really sexy on paper combination. I would actually go further and predict that a healthy season of Matt Stafford and Terry McLaurin will deliver a top 5 wide receiver year out of Terry McLaurin. So again, going back to what you said before about secondary effects, man, holy shit.
Yep. And you know who else?
With Stafford, amazing.
And you know who else I would like if Matt Stafford or a QB on that level, a major upgrade happens at Washington. I'm keeping an eye on a sleeper list. I'm starting to write up our sleeper list already for the DFS Army draft kit, soon to be launched. We're going to launch it real early this year, Geek. And Cam Sims, who to me, when he was in college, looked pretty good. And in the NFL, he's looked even better. He's 6'4", 215 pounds. We like the other Sims last year, Steve
Sims. We like the wrong Sims.
But it makes sense that we were wrong. Steve Sims is more of a slot guy, 170-pound guy. Cam Sims is a big-bodied receiver, 215 pounds, looked the part to me. And if we get competent QB play in there, he's going to be that guy that I'm looking to take in my last round of my all of the best balls.
Dude, that's so sweet. Like, no one's touching Cam Sims in the best ball because they're used to him catching passes from Dwayne Haskins. And now you're going to get potentially, and we're going to talk about 3 other free agent quarterbacks that all might end up on any one of these teams. But you get any one of these guys, plug in Fitzpatrick or Jameis Winston, whoever, as long as it's not Cam Newton, I think you're in good shape.
Let's go back to that now. Now, Cam Newton obviously did not look great with the Patriots, but neither did Tom Brady last year.
No, stop it.
Is it possible?
Has nothing to do with it.
Is it possible that Cam Newton he makes sense for the Bears? That with competent wide receivers, Anthony Miller, we still like him a bit, and obviously we don't think Allen Robinson's going to
I don't like Anthony Miller anymore. Fuck Anthony Miller. That guy has busted.
You know what it is? I don't think Anthony Miller is a bad player, but he obviously isn't someone that can transcend bad quarterback play. I wanted to, before I totally scratch him off my list, I want to see him with a competent QB.
You're such a draft nick. You're such a fucking draft nick. I hate the draft nick. Guys, all right, for everybody's watching, every time draft nicks, says, they fall in love with the player when they're evaluating them pre-NFL draft. And then what happens? He sucks. Right? But you can't get over it. What's that?
You think Anthony Miller has sucked?
Yes, I think he is a bust, right? Like, he's not good. So he just hasn't been. It could be, by the way, and here's where it goes wrong. I think he's just like some guys just don't have the will to be awesome. And I think he's one of these guys that doesn't have the will. In order to be a great player in the NFL, you have to want it really, really bad. And I think some of these guys just don't. Eventually they come around. And we'll talk about some free agent players. One guy who I think is that way, who comes around and realizes, oh my God, I got to eat healthier. I got to do the extra things to be awesome and great in life. Now, I don't know, but I just don't think Anthony Miller is that guy.
Well, Anthony Miller, his rookie year, going back a couple years ago, scored 7 touchdowns with a ripped shoulder. I mean, that's to me. I'm just saying that is an implication to me that he's not a bad player. So I disagree with your assessment of his skill. Again, I think that he is somebody that he's only 26 years old. Wide receivers generally don't really make that leap until year 2, year 3. He's entering year 4. Again, I mean, he's somebody that you're going to be able to get on the waiver wire in week 1, or you could take him with the last pick in your best ball draft. If there's a competent quarterback that goes there, he's a player that I'm going to be interested in getting a few shares of.
That's fine. I'm much more excited about the Cam Sims play. That's a lot sneakier. Yeah. That's a WR2 on a team where no one's looking at Cam Sims.
Nobody.
That's a great call. Don't go away from that with some shitty-ass Anthony Miller discussions.
Oh, no. I'm not recommending Anthony Miller. I'm saying let's not write him off.
That's a beautiful call, right? So, but I like it. Stafford to Washington, primary prediction. I think with every quarterback prediction, could he go to the Colts? Maybe. I think that's always in the discussion. So, but I do like it. And could he go to the Bears? possibly. Those are the teams. So, assuming it's not Washington, although I think that's a great destination. What do you give as the number 2 possibility here, or should we just?
Okay, you ready? So
this other quarterbacks that have other chances, because there's 3 or 4 of these guys.
All right, we can talk about that, but I think for Stafford is the most interesting because he's going to be he's the prize of the likely, other than Desean Watson, which we know that could really help some other teams. And there's 2 other teams, I think, and I'll fire them out there. I'll give you a quick rationale, and then if you want to move on or dissect either one, that's fine. Denver, I think they know that Drew Lock is not the long-term answer at this point. They have Drew Lock for another few years on a second-round rookie contract. They could easily make him a backup. I think John Elway likes his veteran quarterbacks, and I think Stafford makes a heck ton of sense over there. I wouldn't be surprised to see him in Denver. And then the other one is that Matt Stafford's hometown is Dallas, Texas. That's where he went to high school. And if there is a situation, which I told you, I don't think Dak is a lock to get a long-term. I don't think he's going to get a long-term deal coming off the injury. They could only franchise tag him. If they are not sure in any way, and again, it's a longer shot, Dallas could be the landing spot. They're ready to win now, but I think Denver would be my second choice after Washington, where Stafford's most likely to land.
I like those choices. I don't get the Dallas one at all. I just don't agree that there's any chance of Dak going anywhere. But, weirder things have happened in the NFL. Let's move on to, since you talked about Texas, it's funny we didn't mention the Texans as a destination for a vet quarterback. I don't think that's what they're going to do there. I think that's more of like a full rebuild situation that's going to happen. So let's talk about Desean Watson and possible destinations. And there's really 2 teams that have emerged on the betting lines as the top 2 contenders, and one that is a little bit out in front right now, but it seems like it's not a lock. So the 2 contenders right now are Miami and New York. Jets, Dolphins. Now, this one's close to my heart. So I'm going to talk the Dolphin side a little bit first and then the Jets. With the Dolphins, listen, we saw from Tua that he doesn't look that good, right? There's a lot of excuses to be made for him. He was injured, didn't have really a proper training camp at all. He was hurt. He's coming off a hurt season, needed a little bit of seasoning. The Dolphins kind of knew that when they took him. So while I don't think they're fully ready to give up on him yet, and I'm not fully giving up on him after a few months, it is telling that some rookies like Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow come out and they look amazing. And here's this guy who was taken right in between, and he did not look good at all. Like, there was just nothing that he was doing that looked like, hey, that shows potential. Nothing. He didn't show. Right. He didn't flash. Nothing.
Like, think about this. Who are you more confident in? Tua right now, or a year ago, Daniel Jones? We were more confident in Daniel Jones a year ago.
Way more confident. And Daniel Jones failed. But I think I'm more confident in Tyler Heineke than I am in Tua right now. So I'm a little more confident in Heineke. So here, but the Dolphins trade for trading purposes. They could say, hey, we've got a top couple of picks. We've got Tua. We'll send you a young quarterback. We'll send you a couple of first-round picks. Let's make a deal, right? And Cody's asking about the Colts. The Colts are involved in every discussion, but I think I have some other ideas of who's going to the Colts. But they should be involved in every one of the discussions. The Colts don't really have the capital to get a Desean Watson, but I think that they would want him. Every team wants Desean Watson. Now, secondarily, so what do the Jets have to offer? The Jets also have a young running back in Sam Darnold. You may or may not like him. I don't know. That's fine. They've got 2 first-rounders this year, first round of next year, and they have the money to pay Desean long-term. Lots of money also to build a team around this guy. So the Jets, and Desean seems to want to go to either the Jets or the Dolphins. So says if you're the Texans and the Jets are like, hey, we'll give you Darnold, we'll give you the number 2 pick this year, so you could take Wilson if you want. You don't want Darnold, fine. We'll give you another first rounder this year, and probably they're going to want another pick of some sort, and that'll be a sticking point. I think at minimum they're going to get 2 first rounders and a player for Desean Watson. So which side has the better equity to get this deal done?
You know what I think is funny is that Jet fans, you and I, both Jet fans, we think that the Texans are going to give up Desean Watson for pick 2, presumably pick 23, which is the Seattle's pick that the Jets own via the Jamal Adams trade. So we think that we're going to give up Darnold, those 2 picks, and maybe a future second and get Desean Watson. No, this is how it's going to work. And this is why I don't think he'll be traded. I think that the Texans are going to say, okay, you want Desean Watson, he's yours. This is what we want. Pick 2 and Mekhi Becton. Give us the second round and give us your tackle, and let's play ball. And maybe even they're going to ask for the third. Now, what do you say, Geek? If you want our all-star left tackle who we drafted last year, pick 2, and then let's just say pick 23. 3 firsts for Desean. Now you're on.
It's a steep price to pay, but I would, eventually I think I would pay the price.
But now you're sending Desean Watson over to the Jets with no offensive line. That's the problem.
It's unfortunate. I'd rather not give up Becton because you want to give, but the Jets also have a lot of money. So they have a ton of cap room. They can sign these guys. What you can't do is get a Desean Watson for the rest of his career generally. But
that's what because Bill O'Brien's no longer there. So you're not going to steal from anyone. They're bringing in professional trade consultants, so they're not the laughing stock of the trade free agency again, so that is my prediction, is that
might not work out.
The deal will not get done based on that will likely be the price.
But you've also seen that the Texans, when a player says I want out and I don't care, they will make the deal happen. So, the franchise itself has shown you, if you don't want to be here, get out, and they'll get rid of you. So
that was Bill O'Brien, though. That was Bill O'Brien.
Yeah, let's see what happens. All right, let's talk about some now. Wherever Desean Watson goes, it's a massive boost to any fantasy assets. And interestingly, there are no fantasy assets on the Texans even worth considering. So they suck. They have no one good on the team. They're a complete rebuild situation. There's nothing really, even no implication. There's no deep sleeper hanging out on that roster to take at the end of your best ball draft. It's just who do you want? Kiki Kuti? No, not interested. All right, so some other quarterbacks situations and.
So wait, hold on. Handicap it. What do you think the likely chance is that Desean Watson is not the starting quarterback for the Texans? What % chance do you think is that he moves?
Over 50%.
Okay. So 55-45 he moves.
Yeah, I think the betting lines have the Jets plus 400 to get him, and Miami plus 400.
Which means it's 25%. So it means if you add, isn't it again?
You got to add them all up. No, they don't have a he'll leave the team prop. But you add it all up, and it's over 50% that this guy will be traded.
It's the other way around. If those are the favorites, and they're 25% chance, he can only be traded once. So that means that it's 25% he'll be traded, and 75% that he won't.
No, that's not how that works. That is just not how that works. That it's not a linear equation like that. No, that's not how it works. But understanding. It's over 50% that he'll be traded at this point.
Fair enough.
In my mind. So let me talk about some other potential quarterbacks that are moving. And these are free agents, but essentially they're floating guys right now. And I think they're franchise quarterbacks or at least great fill-ins. And some of our listeners are asking about the Colts and what's going to happen with the Colts. They're a massive quarterback destination. Somebody good is going there. So the other names I'm going to throw out there, of course, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Fitzmagic himself. The ultimate carpetbagger, moving from team to team. The biggest one for me, though, is Jameis Winston, because I believe Jameis Winston is still a franchise quarterback without a team. So we've got the Jets, we've got the Patriots and the Colts, both teams in dire need of quarterbacking help. I believe that Fitzpatrick is going to wind up on the Patriots.
But not as a starter, more likely as a backup. I mean, we've seen Fitzpatrick. I don't know about that. I don't know.
Who are they going to bring in? I mean, it's Jameis Winston and it's Ryan Fitzpatrick. Yeah. Those are the guys. That's who's available. They're going to bring in Hoyer. They have to have a quarterback. Bill Belichick is not going to draft one and develop him. He's just not doing that. So what are they going to do at the quarterback position? It's got to be one of these two guys, I think.
Yeah, it's certainly possible. I just don't think that Ryan Fitzpatrick and by the way, Winston, I'm not so sure about because everyone had a chance to get Winston last year and they didn't want him. Why would that have changed?
I think it's changed. I just think, you know what? He needed a year. He needed a year to mentally recharge himself. He played a couple of snaps. He played a game, I think, for or a half a game for the Saints. Looked good out there. Looked fine.
Well, that's what Winston does. He looks good until he turns the ball over in the fourth quarter on a pick six.
He hasn't been a big winning quarterback, but there will be teams that say we can fix that part of his game.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, look at Tampa last year with Winston. Great, he was like top 5 fantasy asset. But now look at them with Brady. I mean, it's basically the same team.
He's no Brady. Listen, he's no Brady. But I think he goes to the Patriots. I think it's either him or Fitzpatrick helming the Patriots next season. Then which one goes to the Colts or to the Colts? What do you say?
Yeah, I mean the Colts. They're definitely going to be looking for. I mean they showed last year that Phillip Rivers was someone they thought that can march them to the Super Bowl. So a steady Eddie veteran. So yeah, I mean it's Stafford obviously makes sense there too. Stafford makes sense for everybody that doesn't have a quarterback, right?
Everybody who's a good team. He doesn't make sense for like the Jets, but anybody who's a win now team.
The easy connection to make is I know that the Eagles wanted to fix Carson Wentz, so don't be surprised if Jalen Hurts gets traded in the offseason too.
Oh my goodness! If that were to happen, the people in Philadelphia will break down the offices of the GM and just like.
Well, just don't be shocked if that happens, because there obviously is going to be a quarterback controversy. The team is committed to fixing Carson Wentz. They hired a head coach that was on the Colts that worked with he was going to do what they asked him to do. He's not a CEO style coach. He's more of a hey, I could fix Carson Wentz style of coach. That's what he committed to. So they're going with Carson Wentz. And right now, Jalen Hurts' value has never been as high as it is. You can easily get a first round pick for him. They may just cash out on it.
What a disaster for Eagles fans. This is a
That's why. That's
disaster. Why if you're a fan of the Eagles, I said this during the coaching search. I was like, oh my God, this team is looking for a guy that wants to keep Carson Wentz going. Why? Eagles fans.
Well, do you know why? Because they're invested in him. They
fucked up. Listen,
yes.
Sometimes you buy a stock. Like let's say you buy GameStop today. GameStop stock.
Explain that. But I've seen GameStop. You're gonna have to explain to me and for the people, because
there's a short squeeze taking place. It's basically
explain that to somebody who knows nothing about stocks. Explain it to me.
What a short squeeze means is GameStop was this company that's like a dying breed. They're selling like used video cassettes.
I know GameStop. I play games, so
it's like Blockbuster basically.
It's a brick and mortar store selling physical games rather than because now you could just download everything. So
you download and they're selling used games, and they had this whole new used business, and they're in the stores. It's like a Radio Shack or a Blockbuster, like a dinosaur, right? And all these hedge funds were shorting the shit out of it, expecting them to eventually go out of business. And that's what hedge funds do. They just short a stock and wait for it to go out of business, and they use the money in that stock to invest in other things, and then they leverage that into making lots of money. But here's the problem. Apparently, some Reddit retail guys got hold of this information, and I'm not involved in that, like where I saw it start, but they all just start buying it and buying it and buying it, and they're pushing the price up, and eventually that forces all of the short sellers to buy their shares back. But there's no sell demand because there's just not enough stock out there.
So is it illegal what they did, or is it just swindling?
It's manipulation, but it's legal, and it's like what the Wall Street banks do all the time. It's just like retail. Joe Retail doing it, which is amazing. This is like rooting for the little guy against the evil, like Wall Street fat cats, right? And so what happened is they drove the price so high. So what does the hedge fund do? They start borrowing more money, billions more, to cover their capital calls to sell more. They're like, hey, you're stupid. Now it goes up even more, and now they're dead. They have to close the position. How do you close your short stock? You got to buy hundreds of millions of shares. That drives the price even further. So it's going to collapse soon enough, but not before it takes out the short sell. So that it's just a fun little situation. But I don't know, what was our point? I don't even know what the hell.
Yeah, I mean, that was good. You explained, but let's reset. Let's talk about some of some of the other key free agents. The one I want to talk about, and I think you and I both agree, he's just on talent alone is a top 5 wide receiver in the league, and that's Allen Robinson. Let's just review Allen Robinson's history. Everybody knows that he's never played with good quarterbacks, going back to Penn State when he played with, who's the guy, the Jets? Oh, Christian Hackenberg was his quarterback he produced in college. Then he gets to the NFL and plays with,
by the way, single-handedly caused Christian Hackenberg to get drafted.
Yep.
A terrible quarterback.
Yeah. And so then Allen Robinson, he gets into the pros and produces at an elite level with Blake Bortles. Then gets traded or signs a nice free agent contract with Chicago, still produces at a very high level with poor quarterback play. And now Allen Robinson, this is presumably entering his age 20. He's 27 years old. This is going to be his last bite at the Big Apple, meaning this is the last time he's going to get a mega contract. He's going to get paid like a top
appropriate
5.
That you said bite at the Big Apple.
All right. Well, there we go. So where do we think Allen Robinson will be? And already, doesn't matter. I think you and I are operating under the assumption that Allen Robinson is a top 15 fantasy receiver, probably a top 12, and definitely a top 5 upside. Where do you think he'll sign? Where would you like to see him sign?
Again, I think it's appropriate that you said the Big Apple, because the most likely and the perfect fit for him, especially if the Desean Watson thing happens, but even if it doesn't, the perfect fit for him is the New York Jets. I'll give a secondary nod to the New York Giants, by the way, who are very desperate for a wide receiver as well. But the Jets just make sense. They have so much cap space, $100 million in cap space. They don't have any wide receivers on the roster that are any good, or they certainly don't have a number 1 wide receiver on the roster. They have a nice little slot guy. They've got a speedy kind of like youngster, but they don't have a number 1 wide receiver. It would just make sense to pair up Robinson with Crowder in the slot, with speedy Denzel Mims on the outside, and hopefully Desean Watson on that team to have a power trio of wide receivers. Now that's that. And by the way, that's a great fantasy outcome if Desean Watson winds up with him. Amazing.
Yeah.
Much less exciting if it's the number 2 pick and it's the rookie quarterback at the helm. Still good, but more of the same out of Allen Robinson, I think, compared to a Desean Watson pairing.
There's 2 other outcomes, and of course, as a Jet fan, I'd love to see that. But there's 2 other outcomes that I'm keeping an eye on. And number 1 is Green Bay, I think, is going to enter the free agent market with wide receiver. I think
they
that
never do. I don't why. They never do.
They never do, but I think that they realize at this point, if they can't hold on to Aaron Jones, it's because he's going to be offered a lot of money. They're going to have a little bit of extra money to spend. And I don't think you want to go into the season with MVS, Allen Lazard as your 2 main pass catchers. I know they've done it before, but I think they're going to be interested in someone like Allen Robinson, and that could reinvigorate Aaron Rodgers a little bit, who seems to have lost a little fire. I mean, why wouldn't you after a terrible loss like that? But
quick side note on Aaron Rodgers. We don't believe for a second that he's going anywhere.
Well, he can't, because there's $31 million in dead cap if he's not on the roster.
Yeah, so he's not going anywhere. Let's just be clear on that. He could be frustrated, but hopefully that frustration leads to the team signing a good wide receiver, because they just don't do it, and it's kind of a dick move.
Right. Now, after next season, Rodgers could be gone, but he'll be age 39 at that point, and that's a long way away.
Yeah, let's not worry about that. But I could see him being that gunslinger that goes to a team like Tom Brady style and takes him to a Super Bowl, like switches it up.
Yep. And the other team that I thought, and Miami doesn't really have a number 1 receiver, and they're going to be aggressive. They're seeing the window starting to open. They want to compete. They know that if they go half measures in free agency in the draft, that Buffalo is just going to roll them. Buffalo is a major player for the next 3 years, 2 to 3 years in the AFC East. And if Miami wants to win the division, they're going to have to make a move. And Allen Robinson seems like the perfect fit. I mean, he's going to be everyone want him. So you got to come open up the wallet. So I thought that those 2, and I have one other team that might be interested. I'm not sure, because New Orleans is in cap hell. I mean, how much right now? They're $100 million over the cap. Not $100 million to cap, $100 million over the cap. Now, Drew Brees is going to come off the cap when he retires. Okay, so that's going to help.
With 30 million, I mean, it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot, but still you're majorly over. I wouldn't be shocked if they trade Michael Thomas for not peanuts, but 95 cents on the dollar, and then they'll have some money to bring in a free agent. I think there's going to be some shuffling over there. It's a long shot, but
that seems very long shot to me.
It's not outrageous.
I think he's going to go to a team that has a lot of money, a lot of cap space, and again, I would throw the Giants on that list as well. They are desperately Giants. I think maybe of all teams, the most needy for wide receiver talent, almost in the league, and that includes the Jets. Like the Giants might be worse at wide receiver than the Jets, who are really, really bad. And let's talk about another wide receiver that's coming to the free agency market, and that's Will Fuller. Big Willy. Willy's got a couple games left on his suspension. Worked on the hammy in the last year in the offseason, maybe with the steroids. I don't know, but something helped it out. I'm a little bit nervous about Will Fuller getting the USADA ban, considering. Is it USADA? Are they the ones who do the NFL, or NFL does its own shit? No, NFL does their own thing. Okay, sorry. Getting the ban, the PED ban, because what if that's what caused him to have a healthy season? What if that's why his hamstring held up? And now if he can't take the roids, he's going to go right back to not being able to play more than 4 or 5 games in a year.
Well, I think Will Fuller, he made every attempt to play a full season. He looked like every bit the wide receiver one that we thought he could be. He was looking like a top 7 or 8 fantasy option at the position. And this is going to hurt him in free agency. It's not as far as demand, but as far as price. Will Fuller was looking like he was going to be a $14 or $15 million a year player on a 3-year deal. He's probably closer to a 1-year deal player at with a team option on the back end for under 10. So
you know which team I like for him? I like the Packers. Replace Martez Valdez-Scantling. It's the same skill set.
You don't have to replace. He's still, under a rookie contract.
When I mean on the starting as the WR2, because Valdez-Scantling just is that same skill set, but worse, not as good. So if you have a Will Fuller over there, he's like a more skilled, a little bit more talented. He's also a pass dropper, by the way.
If we're thinking that he has hamstring issues, I think that he's going to try to revive his value and not go to a cold weather place, because that can't be good for soft tissue. That's a factor. Think about how you feel when you're in warm weather versus cold weather. Now, he may not have the options that he was going to have, but I think, and I used to think Will Fuller to Green Bay was a slam dunk. It made a lot of sense. But if he's really going to have these soft tissue problems, I would say an indoor or a warm climate might be more likely.
All right. That's fair. Speaking of wide receivers with hamstring issues, and there's so many of them. Kenny Galladay's a free agent. Again, we've got the Lions likely breaking the team apart. No more Matt Stafford, doing a rebuild. Galladay has not been able to stay healthy. What kind of deal does he command? Is he an elite wide receiver at all? Is he a player that matters?
I think Galladay's a little overrated, and it's nothing to do with that. I don't think he has the raw talent, but you talked about staying healthy. He's never, he's a little bit older than you think. He's going to be 28 this season. He came out as a 24-year-old rookie, I think it was. Most rookies come out when, Jerry Jeudy is 21. It's quite a difference. So he'll be a solid addition. He's a candidate to get overpaid by a team. I would not be overly excited. He would be cast perfectly as we think of Devin Funchess with a little bit more upside. Someone that can come
brutal. That's your comparison, Devin Funchess.
I'm saying if he's cast in that role as the big body guy that you're not expecting 1,000 yards from, if you're signing Kenny Galladay and you're expecting about 68 catches for about 900 yards and 8 touchdowns, I think that's a little bit more in line. For fantasy purposes, he was thought of as an elite wide receiver. He certainly flashed it, and in the right situation. But given the injury history, given the production, and given the age profile, it could work out. But I would not expect him, and I would not be excited about him for fantasy. If he's anything more, if he's the main wide receiver on a team, I'm not interested. If he's the 2 or the 3, I'm going to be a little bit more interested. His price is going to fall. I've been doing some early drafts already, some mocks, and I'm in a startup dynasty, and he's fallen to the late 6th round.
I'm even, as I sit here, I'm trying to think of potential destinations for Kenny Galladay.
Anywhere.
And
Anywhere.
Miami kind of pops into my head a little bit. There are a few spots. The Colts are kind of filled up at wide receiver. They don't need
T.Y. Hilton's a free agent, so they may need a big-bodied guy. I don't know. I mean, that's not T.Y. Hilton.
Michael Pittman's pretty big-bodied. He's that guy. I'm just trying to think what team needs that possession, sort of reliable wide receiver to go along with the speedster.
Talked about
wind up in Houston. They'll need a guy like him. They don't have that style of wide receiver over there. And
Carolina could be an interesting spot because Curtis Samuel is a free agent, and then they have DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson. He fits in well over there.
If Golladay leaves the Lions, there's going to be a spot available on the Lions for a WR1 that is going to emerge, I think, depending on who their quarterback becomes. Like, again, all of the implications of the Stafford leaving thing. We still haven't talked about, like, what do the Lions do a quarterback? Do they put in a stopgap? Do they try to draft somebody? Do they have the draft capital to get anybody?
Well, they're picking inside the top 10.
I mean, do we think they're going to get like that third wide receiver coming out of the
third
quarterback coming out of the draft?
Yeah, because after Lawrence, I mean, you and I both like Fields. I know that's kind of the consensus play, but a lot of really smart, what you call draft nicks, but draft analysts, they're not sold that they love Fields. They love him, but they're not saying that he's the clear cut too. Some people like Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, and now there's a couple other. Oh my God, it slipped my mind. But the guy who's at the Senior Bowl this week, what the heck is it? I can't believe it. I apologize to you, the listener who's been studying the draft. But the guy that's at the Senior Bowl this week, that he is one of those impressing already. And he could end up being a riser and a first-round pick as well. So there's going to be about 5 or 6 quarterbacks that are worth first-round consideration. And if the Lions fall in love with any one of them, I mean, they're going to draft them. That's it.
Somebody's going to emerge as a fantasy asset on that team. They have some young players on the Lions. I forget Quintez Cephas.
Yeah, Cephas.
And some other ones that might emerge.
DeAndre Swift and TJ Hawkinson, who you and I both agree, just give him targets. He's already producing at a per target basis, but let's give him let's give him 12 targets a game, and we know that he's going to be a top 2 fantasy asset at the position.
I think, sticking with that team, it's interesting. Once they lose the quarterback, they're going to bring in a rookie or some youngster, assuming that they do that. It doesn't help. I think it's a negative to Swift in terms of just having a team that should be competitive and scoring a lot. But at the positive side for Swift is a new coaching staff in place that isn't like married to the 4 running back, rotation, putting in some fat, slow.
Look, their new coach, you saw the press conference with Dan Campbell?
Yeah, I don't like him I don't like it.
But do you remember? So here you go. So I didn't like it. I thought it was goofy, but it was kind of fun. But if you remember when Dan Campbell took over the Miami Dolphins that year that they fired Joe Philbin, and Joe Philbin hadn't won a game, the Dan Campbell Miami Dolphins actually reeled off about 4 or 5 wins in a row. They played for him. He is as goofy as he is, and we know that there's probably not a lot of upside with him as a coach. He was able to rally the team, and he was a run first, stick your nose in the ground. So I think it bodes well for Swift's attempts. I think instead of projecting Swift for 14 carries and like 3 or 4 targets, you're going to see 18 carries. I think Swift is a first-round fantasy pick next year. It doesn't matter who the quarterback is. I know you generally don't like to draft players with quarterback play.
I like running backs on winning teams.
Right, but you're not going to be interested in Swift because I'm guessing their under-over is going to be 6 for wins.
I don't mind it when it's a Swift-style pass-catching running back, to be clear, which is why, it doesn't matter with Christian McCaffrey, even though his team's not a winning team. But normally, as an overall, I do prefer running backs to come from winners. But again, a Swift, you can make an exception for it. All right, let's talk about some of these other players. There's so many things happening in free agency. Aaron Jones, I think, is one of the biggest names because he's a free agent. He's going to command a lot of money, right? He's got a ton of talent. We've seen the guy's talent. We've seen that the Packers really never even allowed him to get more than 15 or 17 touches. But there's a ripple effect. If Aaron Jones leaves the Packers, now the Packers are left with a promising young rookie in A.J. Dillon. Promising. Jamal Williams is still there doing his thing, the pass-catching role. But, man, A.J. Dillon looked pretty good. He looked like Derrick Henry 2.0 when I saw him out there for that one game where they featured him. and he's a big dude, and he's fast, and he just looks like Derrick Henry out there. And of course, Aaron Jones, given a role of a full-time potential bell cow on a team if he gets paid big, could finally, he's had great fantasy seasons, but he could finally sort of even show his ceiling as a guy who might see 22, 23 touches for a new team. So who are some potential takers for Aaron Jones? What are there teams that really want to pay running backs 10, 12 million a season right now?
Well, you said it exactly right. I think that teams are wising up that it is suboptimal to pay a running back, to overpay a running back. Now, that said, when you're talking about a difference maker, because great running backs matter, then it's okay to overpay. So you want to pay Dalvin Cook, right? The Vikings said, okay, this is our whole offense. It makes sense to pay Dalvin Cook. Now, the team paid Alvin Kamara. We could debate whether system, a little bit more system based, or if there's real talent there. I mean, but Alvin Kamara, I agree. I'm saying, but it's debatable. Dalvin Cook, there's no debate, right? Saquon Barkley, from when he's healthy, there's no debate. Derrick Henry, he's the linchpin in the offense, no debate. So now I guess really each GM is going to have to assess, is Aaron Jones worth overpaying for, or is that money better allocated to another asset? And even though we all agree Aaron Jones is a really good player, is he worth the overpay?
And where does he go?
My guess is that he ends up back on the Packers, right? And that he gives them a hometown discount. So I agree with you that his market price is going to be $10 or $11 million. It might even be asked for 14, right? Something ridiculous. But if they want to run it back, I think you could see Aaron Jones agree to the team with like an $7.5 million deal, but agree to multiple years guaranteed, like 2 years guaranteed instead of one guaranteed. So my prediction is he will stay, but if he does go, you mentioned, and I know we're Jets homers, this is kind of a Jets podcast at times, that they have the money to spend. So
by the way, trying not to be a homer about it, but it does make sense. Like, it's tough because they're the team that has the most money, and a team like Miami also has a lot of money. These are the teams that have the biggest salary cap abilities, but Miami has a running back that they kind of like, or two. So it doesn't really work there. The Jets don't have anyone. So that, it does make sense, but you're probably right. The most likely scenario is he goes back, which kills the value of A.J. Dillon.
Well, not exactly, because if they do decide to keep Aaron Jones, they have to let Jamal Williams walk. They can't sign both, because you can't put.
They both free agents. So
right. So let's say, for example, you decided you can't put then $3 million or $2 million into Jamal Williams if you're giving the other guy $7.5. It's because Jamal Williams he'll say, "What am I going to be, the third guy again?" They can't keep both. They either have to go with the rookie Dillon and Jamal Williams, or keep Aaron Jones and a rookie Dillon.
I think it'll come down to how much they like the rookie. So that'll be interesting to see how it plays out. A couple other names. I think this one's more important than maybe other people do, because if he doesn't stay with his team, it's going to be a ripple effect. Chris Carson is a free agent this year, and he's hurt a lot. I don't think he's an elite talent. I don't even think he's a above average running back in terms of starting running backs in the league talent wise. I think he's fine. I think he's a guy that you're okay. You're fine with him. You could probably plug anybody into that spot and they're going to do about the same.
So Geek, here's a good time to plug what I'm doing this week on DFS Army. Each week I'm putting up a new written article along with our video. The article I'm doing this week is taking the top 10 free agents and putting my prediction for where they will sign and it'll be embedded with this video for people to look on. And my prediction for Chris Carson is that he re-signs for $2 million with the Seattle Seahawks. Yeah,
there you go. I mean, that makes sense, but I think it's just important to note that if he doesn't re-sign with Seattle, for fantasy purposes, we want to be very interested in who might replace him. And there are names on the team. And again, this might be a best ball implication as well. Rashard Penny's still there. Maybe he'll be a guy. They could draft somebody. They could be the spot that drafts one of the high-end running backs. Remember that what the new offensive coordinator, as disgusting as this is, as horrifying as it is to hear it in your ears, what are they talking about? We need to establish the run. There's a lot that went on with Seattle this season. You saw a tale of two teams. You saw a second half team that could not pass at all. They weren't able to be successful throwing the football. The play action that Seattle has been so successful with didn't really work out. And by the way, a user just mentioned, or one of the watchers just mentioned the Bills. Man, that's a good destination for any running back too, potentially. But we saw in the playoffs that their running back situation needs help.
Zach Moss was hurt, so I mean,
but I mean, we'll know. We don't know if Zach Moss is the long-term answer.
Let me flip the script.
Going back to Seattle, I just want to get to this because it's really, really important. This is a team that wants to focus the run. They want to be a run-first team. They don't, if Carson leaves and they either draft somebody or want to emphasize one of these other guys, I mean, that's going to be a good draft. Like, you want to follow that running back situation because the team wants to run the shit out of the football. It's that simple.
Yeah. Here's a good, I'm going to reverse the question where we say, where do you think this running back will go? And then we try to fit him into a team. Let's do it. Let's spin it around and look the other way. We saw Todd Gurley basically fizzle out. He was pretty good for fantasy because he got a lot of touchdowns in the first half of the year, and then he was droppable in most of your fantasy leagues.
But by the way, dead-legged the whole time.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He was what they call touchdown deodorant in the beginning of the year. All right, so assuming they don't re-sign him, which I don't think they will, they only had him on a 1-year deal, who's the running back that you would like to see in Atlanta? Because if they run it back one more time with Matt Ryan, I think they will. And Julio Jones is certainly there for one more year. 2022, I don't think either one of them will be there. But who's the running back that you think ends up in Atlanta? Because I think that's a running back that I'm going to be interested in. Do they draft Najee Harris in the first round? Or move up to take him? Is it a rookie? Do they take one of these free agents that we've been talking about? Who do you want to see there? Is it James Conner that ends up? Is it Kenyan Drake? Like any of these guys, who do you think is most likely to be there? And will you be interested in a player, some of the veterans that have a little stink on them we just mentioned in Atlanta?
No, I mean, if they have a little stink on them. So like Connor, I don't think Atlanta has shown that they're going to focus one running back unless something significantly changes about the way that team is set up. They seem to want to run 3 guys out there. If they got Aaron Jones, it's another story. But
they're not going to pay Aaron Jones.
They don't have the money for it, and they're not a win-now team. The Falcons are in one of the worst situations of any team in the National Football League to me because they've got a high-paid veteran, older quarterback. They've got older talent at wide receiver, including their youngster who's like 28 already, and like Calvin Ridley is not a young player. He's not 28, but I mean, he's not a young player.
24, 25. So it might be 26.
No, he came out of college.
Right. Yeah, he's 26 this coming season.
Yeah, but I'm just saying he came out at 24. Like, he's not that young. And then the Julio Jones is absolutely over the hill. And so you've got this situation where they're old and they're not that good. So what a bad situation that really is. I don't think and Aaron Jones, but if you're the GM there, are you like, all right, let's go all in to win right now? You haven't won shit. Like, you haven't been good.
That's why I introduced the idea of a competent veteran, someone like Drake or James Conner, or like I said, using an early pick on Najee Harris.
Not an early pick. You could just take a 3rd round pick. Third or 4th round running back, and they're fine. That's what I think we've learned this season. Like, look at all these running backs that are taking the 3rd or 4th round. They're fine. They're just as good. Like,
I don't know, the running backs have gone in, everywhere. Even Hilaire in the 1st round, all the way through the 2nd round. The 2nd round running backs were difference makers this year. Cam Akers went in the 2nd round. J.K. Dobbins was in the 2nd round pick. DeAndre Swift.
They go. But how about James Robinson? The point is, where did they go? They didn't go in the 1st round.
But the 2nd round of the NFL draft is the new 1st round for running backs.
So that's fine. That's what I'm saying. You take a 2nd round pick on a running back. That's where you want to take your running back. You don't want to take your running back in the 1st round.
Atlanta's going to have a pretty high 2nd round pick. So Najee Harris or Etienne or there's a couple other guys that could that can go there. But yeah, I mean, so you would not be excited about a veteran going to one of the stinky veterans, the James Conner types, Kenyan Drakes.
These guys have proven that they're just not that good. Speaking of Kenyan Drake, though, that opens up a really interesting potential situation. If Kenyan Drake leaves Arizona as a free agent, and maybe Edwards, what the hell's his name?
Edmonds.
Edmonds. Chase Edmonds. Maybe Chase Edmonds gets the sort of full. I don't know that Edmonds will ever get a full starting nod. He's a small guy, but
like better suited as a change of pace, complementary.
If he just got a little, but those games where he starts and gets a full workload, man, he does put up some great fantasy numbers.
But he's already proven that he's not going to last more than 3 games with a heavy workload. So
it's unfortunate.
He's an 8 to 10 touch complimentary player. If Drake isn't there and there's no, you could see James like I said, I keep using the same names because these are the guys that are available. You could see Jamal Williams. You could see
many stinky cheese vets that you're talking about. These guys are so dusty. Yeah. All right, let's get a couple more in here. Jameis Winston, prediction of where he starts next year.
I don't think he's going to be a starter next year. I really don't think. I think
he starts for the Patriots. Let me throw it out there.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's certainly possible. We can go through that whole list again. Detroit as a stop. He could end up doing.
He'd be great in Detroit. If he was in Detroit, man, wherever Jameis Winston, if he's a starter, this is why it's so important. The fantasy assets on that team take a giant leap up. This guy is a gunslinger. Wherever he goes,
I think that he's going to end up in the Tyrod Taylor type of role, where he's going to be a veteran starter on a team that takes a young player, a rookie, and that at any moment that they're ready to play their rookie, they're going to pull the plug. So
how about the Panthers?
Yeah, that's certainly possible. I think that's a great. Panthers, I think, are a lock to take a QB. I know that. Well, they have Teddy Bridgewater under contract for 1 more year, so I don't think Winston makes a lot of sense there because Teddy Bridgewater is going to be Tyrod Taylor, right? He's going to be the guy, the veteran guy who's under a 1-year deal, who's going to just hold it down until the young QB is ready. So I don't think that Winston goes there.
Can we compare him to Ryan Fitzpatrick, not fucking Tyrod Taylor, because he's way more Ryan Fitzpatrick than Tyrod Taylor is Tyrod Taylor is death to your fantasy assets.
No upside, right? No upside.
No upside, and your fantasy assets are dead. Wherever Fitzpatrick and Winston go, that is like, yes, baby. Who if I have DJ Moore on my team and I hear Fitzpatrick is going there, or like one of whoever's on my, if I have the wide receiver, I want the wide receiver of the team that Winston is going to. I might even get excited about Jerome Myers or N'Keal Harry if he went to the page. I'm like, yeah, N'Keal Harry's on my team.
Jacoby Myers.
Winston is on my team. I love the fantasy assets for whatever team Winston winds up on.
He's proven that he's proven that he has the pinball machine effect for sure. And for those of you who are under 30 who've never seen a pinball machine, Google it. It's a fun game that scores a lot of points.
Yeah, it's a beautiful.
I had a pinball machine in my house growing up. It was the coolest thing ever. It was the main attraction of the block. I mean, people thought that we were rich because we had a pinball machine. Meanwhile, we got it at some junkyard for like $100. It was this big, giant, heavy metal hunk that went in our basement that had concrete walls, and we just had people lined up playing the pinball machine. I miss pinball
back in the day, man. I miss Mortal Kombat on a giant game surface. So, all right. Couple other spots. So basically the same. I feel the same way about Fitzpatrick. If he gets some sort of a starting even a 1-year placeholder for a team that picked up a rookie, very much like what he did with Miami this past year, because Miami is not bringing him back. It's too much of a controversy when he's on the team to try to play Tua or him. It's just doesn't work. Wherever he goes, I want the fantasy passing assets.
Fair enough.
For that team, I want exposure to them because this guy's a gunslinger. Him and Jameis Winston will determine a lot this upcoming fantasy season. One last name, free agent that we can throw out there because I think he's an important one, and I want a prediction for you before we end this. Juju Smith-Schuster. Yeah. Where does he go? Does he stay with the Steelers here?
No, he does not. So Steelers don't pay wide receivers. Plus, they have the awesome trio of Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson, and James Washington. No reason to stick with Juju Smith-Schuster. Now, of course, it's always possible. Now, Juju Smith-Schuster, I think, is going to want to get paid, and deservedly so. So he's going to go to the highest bidder. I think Juju can end up on the worst team. It doesn't matter. My personal feeling is he's just going to go to the highest bidder. So he could be someone that ends up on Detroit. He could be any team that's willing to open the wallet. He's going to want to get paid. Now, this is dangerous, and it could be good. Right. It could be good if he ends up with a good quarterback. No problem. But, again, we talk about the Jets. We talk about the Lions. And I think any team is in play for him. But if you're asking me for a prediction,
what a disaster. He goes to the Texans. It's like, oh,
right.
No.
There you go. That's who I was going to predict. The Texans or the Lions. I think Juju Smith-Schuster goes to a bad team. If you're doing a dynasty startup draft and Juju Smith-Schuster is, you're there in the third or fourth round and he's there, just beware. You could be buying a bad quarterback, drafting a bad quarterback with him. Now, I could be wrong. A team could see him as the missing piece. I just don't. He's got talent. But I just think that, and rightfully so, because if I would want to be paid like that, major bucks if I was in his situation.
Well,
because
let me throw this.
You don't know how many bites at the apple you're going to get, and this is his chance to cash in.
Let me throw this at you differently with Juju. Like, would you pay him if you're a fucking GM? Because I wouldn't. I think that position, that slot wide receiver, little guy, shifty, it's just not worth paying. I want the big dude. I want the catch radius guy. I don't want the shifty slot guy as my prime weapon. So I'm not going to give Juju Smith-Schuster number one wide receiver money. He's a fucking volume machine. I'd rather have a giant touchdown machine.
Well, you have to remember, Juju's not a small, shifty slot receiver. He's 6'1", 215 pounds. He's more like the DeAndre Hopkins size. He's got great hands. He's a talented wide receiver. It's just already been proven that he has a nose for the end zone. He makes tough catches. He is best cast as the Robin, not the Batman.
That's fair. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's not an alpha. He's not an alpha wide receiver right now.
But he's one of the best betas you can find.
Yeah, he's yeah. So that's totally fine. Corey Davis is another one on my list. Godwin is, I think, more important. Corey Davis, I don't think is going anywhere.
You don't think it? See, I think for sure he's going somewhere.
I don't think he's going to get paid. I think no one's going to be interested. I don't think
somebody's going to be interested. He's a talented wide receiver.
No, but I think the team that's going to be most interested is the one that knows him, and he'll just stay where he is.
It's a new offensive coordinator. Arthur Smith is gone. He's where did he sign with the Falcons? I think the offensive coordinator. But yeah, I do not predict in my prediction article that you will not see Corey Davis back with the team. He's a candidate to try to cash in, and like you said, I don't think he'll command big bucks, but 3.5. $5.5 million.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't think he's commanding some big deal. And usually guys like that wind up staying with their team unless their team just doesn't like him. But I think the Titans could just pay him the $3.5 million.
And you talked about Godwin. Godwin is, if they can't work out an extension with him, he's lock him up into the franchise tag. Godwin is not going anywhere.
So you think Godwin will be franchised? He was that last name on my list of.
Yeah, if he can't get a long-term deal, I believe they will. He's only like 24 years old, 25 years old. They're gonna lock him up for a 3 to 4 year deal.
All right, guys, that's gonna do it for the bold call free agency sort of breakdown. We've got some predictions on where players are going. This is going to be critical to follow as we continue to do best ball. We're going to play best ball all off season. You guess right on the destination of a Winston, or as soon as we know Fitzpatrick, these guys, you're going to get an edge on the field. We have some predictions already.
If you listen to this podcast, there is an advantage to playing best ball early.
Oh, yeah.
Some people get very nervous about playing best ball early because they don't know where people will land. We are going to help you put together the puzzle of where we think players are going to land, and we are going to help you win those January and February best balls.
Love it. And you got to keep it going all season round. And again, I want to mention No House Advantage, the sponsor of today's podcast. The big contest is tonight. Guys, they're giving you $20 to enter for free. Yeah. Just go sign up over there, nohouseadvantage.com. Promo code
or download their app. Download their app. Their app is amazing too. Like you said,
the app, however you do it.
Promo code ARMY.
Get in the contest tonight. I'm going to be in there. Says is going to be in there. I'm using my free 20. Just like Says. Like, I want to fucking win this money. Use the DFS Army projection model to pick those props, or use whatever your projection model is. It's the big NBA slate tonight. Let's get it. For Season Long Says and myself, we'll see you again next week. We have a big Super Bowl preview show coming up. We're going to talk about all the props from the Super Bowl. We're going to bring in Statsational John Alacia in there. We're going to talk about Super Bowl games and contests you could play with the people that come over to your house. We're going to do a whole Super Bowl special, all the props, all of that coming up next week. Same time, same channel. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. I know I should say this at the beginning. If you don't hit the like button, no one ever finds us. They don't know we're here. They don't know we're doing this. If you don't hit subscribe, you won't know when we're back doing another bowl call. You like winning fantasy football leagues. You want to watch the bowl call fantasy football show. So for Season Long Says,
I was just going to say also follow us on Twitter if you're not on Twitter at DFS Army, at F Football Geek, or you can follow me at Alan Seslowsky. If you like Instagram, we're there. And I have my TikTok account where I'm pumping out free fantasy football tidbits every single day. Follow me at Alan Seslowsky. It's in the description of this. So follow us on social media, subscribe. You're going to get notifications when we go live. And I know like and subscribe is an overused term, but we are going to grind out the fantasy football right now. Don't miss an episode. Don't miss any of the clips we're putting out.
There we go. We'll have a lot of guests. We have all kinds of guests planned for this whole offseason. So it's going to be really, really awesome. We will be with you consistently. Like a case of herpes. We just keep showing back up.
DFS Army, the herpes of the fantasy industry.
There we go. All right. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Got the best coaches in the game. We really ain't playing. We regroup up in the Slack chat where the coaches debrief. We be